Big 550 KTRS. On your phone app, KTRS, download it. It's fantastic. Rave reviews. It really is a great way to listen to the Big 550 KTRS. Lots of people have radios. Radios are stationary. Not too many people bring transistor radios around. And boom boxes have sort of gone by the way. I know our next guest used to have a boom box and carried around the Ann Arbor, Michigan campus. He was hip and happening, were you not?
Oh, yeah. That's what I had. A giant boom box.
You had your boom box.
And giant hair.
And you would sort of stop in the middle of going to class and do your break dance, wouldn't you?
Yes, with my parachute pants. And my
I believe it
mullet.
I believe it was a Pepsi generation, was it not?
It was. I had my Oakleys
That's right.
on, and I had my my mullet.
I had my side-out shorts on.
Right? I looked like Adam Sandler in The Wedding Singer.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a great movie.
It is.
That's a really good movie. The voice you're hearing is Scott Sherman. The person you're seeing on KTRS TV is Scott Sherman, and back wearing your Michigan hoodie, I see.
Yeah, I figured today we do a little Spirit Week since the tournament is starting today. And, of course, it's also freezing, so I put hoodie plus Michigan as I usually do.
What's interesting is it's fascinating that somebody should do a study on the hometown bias that regions give to their own team.
Yes.
Like, I'm convinced most people have St. Louis University taking on Missouri in the Sweet 16.
Of course they do.
Right? Because and then you have the people go the other way who say they're both going to lose. They don't have a chance. They're going to lose. So there's the pro-bias and the anti-bias.
I think that's an excellent study. It should be federally funded, much like the light rail.
So like a Michigan grad, you've probably got Michigan going all the way to the Elite Eight.
No?
I
think I went the other way.
Okay, you went the other way.
I said, well, they got the first one, and they might run into Kansas.
All right, fair enough.
I want to be surprised, much like 1989 when we won it all.
Ramil Robinson.
That's right.
Yeah, 2 free throws at the end of the game. I was on a bus traveling from Wichita back to Lincoln, hating my life.
I was on campus,
after losing
loving it.
All right, so okay, legal experts, Scott Sherman.
Yes, sir.
Gay marriage front and center in the Supreme Court.
Last year, the highlight of the Supreme Court's oral argument term was Obamacare.
Right.
Everybody was waiting for it. The highlight of this term's Supreme Court oral argument will start next Tuesday with one of two gay marriage-related cases. The first is the sort of more famous of the two, more well-known as the Prop 8, the California Anti-Gay Marriage Constitutional Amendment,
Right.
which was struck down by a federal court as violating the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, meaning you couldn't single out gay people. The feds didn't have a good enough reason to single out a law that discriminated against gay people.
Okay.
At the same time...
So hold on, back up a second. So California passes a constitutional amendment saying you can't discriminate against gays and gays are allowed to marry.
Yeah, and the history of it was that California had originally passed a law which said that you could get married.
Right.
And then this constitutional amendment, this Prop 8, came out in 2008, ironically the same year Obama was elected. But in California, the presidential election means nothing, and this constitutional amendment would have trumped that gay marriage law.
So the constitutional amendment said you can't get married?
That marriage is only defined as between a man and a woman.
Okay, so
much like the federal defense of marriage.
It was passed by the vote of the people.
Passed by a vote of the people.
So California had a constitutional amendment declaring that a marriage is only between a man and a woman.
That is true.
And that's one of the rulings that's going to be argued next week.
That is what people would know as Perry versus Schwarzenegger, the original challenge to Prop 8, and it's now, I think it's called Perry versus somebody else.
Okay.
But they took Arnold Schwarzenegger's name out of it.
All right.
But the argument being made...
Because he was defending marriage while he was having illicit sex with his maid behind the back of his wife and fostered a child.
Oh, no. His name's on it because he was the governor. The state of California officials didn't want any part of defending Prop 8.
Okay.
In fact, when Jerry Brown was the California Attorney General, he refused to argue on behalf of Prop 8,
Okay.
and now he's the governor.
All right.
So the Prop 8, the people that are trying to strike down Prop 8 and reinstate sort of gay marriage in California.
Okay, right.
It's a very interesting group of people. It's Ted Olson, who used to be Solicitor General. That's the person that goes on behalf.
His wife died in 9/11.
His wife died, Barbara, in 9/11. He was the Bush administration's Solicitor General. He argued for George W. Bush in Bush v. Gore.
Right. Now,
His
he's on the pro-gay marriage side of this.
You know who else is on the pro-gay marriage? The guy that was on the other side of Bush v. Gore,
Boies?
David Boies,
Huh.
who was Al Gore's main lawyer in that challenge. So here are a very liberal Democratic guy, David Boies, a very conservative Republican in Ted Olson, and they are on the same team arguing that Prop 8 is a violation of the United States Constitution.
It's really interesting because and this is from day one when this story first broke about gay marriage, and no one has been able to explain to me why, religiously, I can see why you don't want your church to conduct gay marriages. But outside of that, no one has yet to give me a legitimate reason as to why two people want to enter into some type of legal agreement to share their expenses, to share their wealth, to share their lives. How does that infringe on your rights?
Well, not only did they not explain it to you, but the people that passed Prop 8 could not explain it in an 8-day trial to the federal court judge that was waiting for any kind of explanation. Here is how the analysis is going to go. Within the 14th Amendment, you've got sort of two rivers. There, you've got the substantive due process clause, and you've got the equal protection clause. Now, on the substantive due process clause, these are what we call fundamental rights. You should just call it the fundamental rights clause. Voting, procreation, marriage, ding, 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 ding.
Right.
When it's a fundamental right, if the state wants to pass some kind of law or a constitutional amendment, they're supposed to have a compelling state interest, like such an unbelievably important interest that you're going to infringe on that right. Well, in the voting instance, these voter IDs have been struck down on that.
Right.
That here we have marriage. You're restricting people's ability to be married. Now, you can restrict it by not allowing 9-year-olds to get married, not allow people who already are married to get married, bigamy, and not allowing people that are like brother and sister to get married.
Except first cousin marriages is legal in like 24 states.
And it's also endorsed in Arkansas.
Well, but the point is though, people don't have a problem with some states.
Right.
You can't marry your cousin. In other states, you can marry your cousin.
Right. And
your first cousin.
And so the compelling state interest test doesn't mean you can't have a restriction on a fundamental right. It just means the government has to have an unbelievably good reason, like free speech. There are time, place, and manner restrictions. Right. So on that end, these people have failed miserably because they don't have a compelling state interest. Now, here's the other one. Homosexuality has never been, this is the equal protection river, has never been given the same type of elevation or protection as race, creed, religion.
It's not a protected
origin.
class.
It's not a protected class. And gender, which is a quasi-protected class, there are men and women designations for bathrooms and other things like that, it hasn't even been risen to that level. So the lowest level, like age and height and weight and stuff like that, homosexuality has always been in the non-protected class. Well, what reason would the state have to make that law legal? Almost no reason at all, other than something that makes sense. Give me something. Yeah, compelling state interest, really hard to restrict. But non-protected class, almost impossible to have that struck down. Well, in this case, the rationale from the proponents of Prop 8 have been so bad, they have no reason.
Right.
Just like they can't tell you.
Right.
The court's begging them, please give me a reason that is not in the Bible.
Right.
Give me some non-scripture reason for this, and they couldn't come up with it. They completely struck out.
So the lower courts overturned the constitutional amendment?
The lower courts overturned the constitutional amendment on not having any reason under the Equal Protection Clause, even though homosexuals have not been elevated even to the level of gender, which you have to have a better reason.
Right.
So it's like you have no reason. So in this argument, on this Perry case, what you're going to see is you're going to see Boies and Olson arguing, A, under the Equal Protection Clause, it is time, not just in the context of marriage, but in the context of all laws passed by states under the 14th Amendment, to elevate homosexuality to a quasi-protected class. So you not only just some bogus reason, but you have to have some decent reason, much like you have laws that restrict on gender. That's one.
Now, we're going to hold this thought, because you said there's two they're going after.
Yep.
This is the one is the California Prop B.
Prop 8.
Prop 8?
Yep.
Okay, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. 8.
Ocho.
Okay.
For people in California, ocho.
Okay. Now, the other one is the Defense of Marriage Act, right?
That is correct.
Okay, that's the one President Clinton signed.
That's right.
Hold that thought.
Yes, sir.
That's Scott Sherman, ladies and gentlemen. 9:20 here on the Big 550, KTRS. We found a sponsor for you.
We did, and they love your show.
Really?
St. Louis Home Retention Group. They do. They've been talking to me for months about getting on McGraw's show, and the reason is they want to reach your audience and tell them unbelievably great news that you don't have to be in foreclosure or facing it to be eligible to have your home refinanced under the HARP sort of federal program. Now, this HARP program is this. If you have a mortgage that you got in, say, the mid-2000s, and it's 8 or 9, or there was an ARM, it's a 7, and it's miserable, you might well be eligible to have your mortgage reduced by as much as 50, 60, 70%, down to the 2s or 3s. That was part of the deal that these mortgage lenders, who really screwed up the entire home lending industry with their come-ons and their quick fixes, this was their settlement agreement with the federal government. People who have high-interest mortgages have the right to go out and get their mortgages refinanced, and St. Louis Home Retention Group does it. They gave me a study that 25% of the people eligible don't apply because they think that the mailers they're getting sent in the mail are ripoffs. Here's how you solve that. You call St. Louis Home Retention Group at 636-527-5121, 636-527-5121, or stlouishomeretentiongroup.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, AT&T Uverse, $19 a month with a qualified bundle, 1-year term, locked, priced, guarantee, plus HBO and Cinemax free for 3 months. AT&T can get you next-day installation, 1-877-ONLY AT&T. Visit an AT&T store or just click att.com/TV.
Price for 3. Max speed includes 250 gigabytes a month. Service requires qualifying home phone and gateway. After 12 months, standard rate applies. Offer ends 4/13/13. Internet speed options not available everywhere.
This is it. The Big Dance. March Madness. And your Missouri Tigers are in the thick of it.
Nemchek on the right side comes middle of the floor, knocked away by Bell, taken by Bell. Into the front court to the rim, lays it up and in.
Today, Coach Frank Haith and the Missouri Tigers are in the NCAA tournament in Lexington, Kentucky to take on the Rams from Colorado State.
Bang, he buried it.
Coverage begins at 7:45 p.m. and the tip-off is at 8:20 on the Big 5.